just in case there's actually somebody else watching. Let's keep going. Right, so if it is somebody else watching, the idea is I'm making a game. This is the game, and yeah. So the idea, Voxel World. In the web browser, all you have to do is go to manicvoxels.com and you get to play something that looks like this. This is my local host development version. That didn't work. Okay, so the point of this evening is going to be getting some reporting. So what I want from the program is to be able to have it where I know what the frame rate is across different users. So at the moment we're requesting position, and that's being updated on to the database on a lower rate than it's being updated to everybody else. So try to find, storing position. What we want to add is storing other information as well, like a recording of the ping time and a recording of the we have milliseconds here. A recording of the ping time. We also want to get a recording of the frame rate. So that should get us the last ping time of the connection with the server. Let's see if that works. Nope, instead I think we've got just errors. Uncaught, player is not defined. Well, that makes sense. The player is not defined. We have the sprite manager, which is the player sprite manager. Controls object, which has a camera. This is the player sprite manager. So constant sprite manager. Okay, well let's define that globally. And then instead of player, it's sprite manager, not sprite manager. There we go. Let's try again. Even worse. Oh. Yeah, so because we're using const, we're not allowed to not give it the value straight away. Here we've got the issue of sprite manager last ping is not a function. Player sprite manager get last ping. Well, that most certainly is a function. Yeah, that seems to have stopped us rendering. Maybe let's have something that checks if the sprite manager is defined and then says ping report, and then the ping report is what we want to print, what we want to add on here, but we're only going to add it on if that's defined, which it'll be very quickly. Nope, still not working. Ping report we're not actually defining, so let's do. Let me define it. Interesting. So that was very interesting. So we sometimes get quite a bit of delay on the ping time, but actually because we're running on a local server, the ping time is often very small, very variable. So it's very hard for you guys to see, but it's in the top left. I should probably put a box around this. If I do, this is the definition of what it is, and it's direction. So we have the span, which is behind the div debug. Let's go into the CSS and make a white background for debug. Then we can more easily see that. Oh, that's too early. Oh no, it wasn't. I need to speed up the gathering of the creating new land. It works not too badly on this computer, but it's frustrating. It won't work as well on lower machines. So, and also it's an inefficient way of doing it. I mean, at the moment, as you can see, if we go out, that wasn't the best example. I should put the jump back to 2 blocks. If we try and go out a bit quicker. No, it's just not, it's too quick at the moment. Okay. And we've got a great ping time as well, so that's good to be reporting though. That's going to be one of the important numbers to understand for how other people are going to be playing. I'm on a fiber connection here. I mean, literally what you're looking at is localhost, which is obviously going to be the lowest ping time of anything, but on the server it's well, I think the server's in America, so the ping time will not be 1 or 2 milliseconds, but instead will probably be maybe up to 100 milliseconds. But it will be interesting to log that information. One thing we haven't logged here is the distance traveled. So we are now tracking that, or at least we should be. So Where am I tracking that? I'll be in controls. Okay, we should have access to controls here. And controls is made pretty early on. So if I do, this is the messiest line ever. Oh, is it control, not controls? Ah, but the definition is also external, so have control manager. Just the control manager dot get controls. We've got distance. Sprite manager controls. And that's just to make it say. If we make controls global in here, then we can have the total distance. Distance is currently undefined, that's fine. So here you can see it does the underground first, and it doesn't need to be doing the underground at all, really. Okay, so that's undefined because it continues to be undefined. If it starts undefined, it'll continue to be undefined. Okay, that's interesting. So the distance is 0 here, and the distance remains undefined. Where? Interesting, I wonder where it becomes undefined. If the square root there, that could make it undefined. But I wouldn't have thought that's what's doing it, because it starts undefined. Get control manager returns the new control handler, and that's what we export. Get control. I really hate this class because control handler, is that the, because it's not a proper class. So it's control manager. So let's try control manager. Okay, that's a shame. Control manager. The control handler is the control manager, and the distance here is 0, and then we increment the distance, but for some reason we don't have the distance. How peculiar. Let's go into the debug, and that should take us somewhere close with where we need to go. Interestingly, the update of distance isn't here. Ah, there we go. That's what it took. So now we have a metric of how far 22 meters. Going pretty quick. Got the ping time, we've got the distance. This is cumulative. That's from that's interesting. Oh, when did I destroy that tree? Maybe I'm going in circles. It is a infinite forest after all. Very hard to get out of. You've got the obvious help from the fact that you're on a grid, but oh look, there's a cave. And the thing is, if I had I have one of my tasks that I want to get done is having a queue for when the chunks get made. And I think if I have a priority queue of how the chunks get made, then I will be able to do something quite interesting and have that constantly running, so that the distance is generated. One of the issues is I'm running on a RTX 2070 here, so it's not as powerful as my other card, but it's a lot more powerful than the integrated graphics cards that a lot of people are going to be trying to run this game on. Well, I mean, integrated graphics or like integrated graphics on a mobile device, and so it really needs to be able. So although I can run this, and we've got 50,000 triangles, 60,000 triangles in that view, 451 textures. I mean, that's going to be too much for a lot of devices. But then, I mean, we're not displaying how many chunks are loaded and how many are visible, but I mean, you can see from here, like, you can't, in that direction at least, or in this direction as well, you can't see the edge. So I'm sure if we jumped to the top of something, and in fact, actually, what I'm going to try and do here is dig my way and then place. No. Haven't fixed the place where you're standing bug. See what we got. I mean, that's a reasonable chunk. I mean, we're still running very smooth. 16 milliseconds is 60 frames a second, I think, on here. So that's fine. And now I don't think I'm going to be able to dig anything. Nah, for goodness sake. Doesn't matter. So the next thing is to get the server to do the logging of these parameters. I'm loving the distance one. That is great. The other things, what else did I have in my notebook? I don't know. We had maybe I think the viewers is me. Do I count as a viewer on here? I must do. It's hardly going to go beyond one. Who's this? No. No, it's... Who knows? Okay, so what else have we got? We've got those reporting, but they're not being reported to the server yet. And what would be quite nice is the number of times we have successfully placed a block, and the number of times... so let's write these ones down. Right, so successfully place a block. And successfully dig a block. else can you do at the moment? I can't do any composition yet because I haven't got that working yet. So let's do successfully place a block and successfully dig a block. And they will be also in controls under the click manager. And I'm wondering here whether this is going to cause a merge conflict when we try and merge this with the other one. Perhaps we should go straight to getting the merging of this data rather than stopping here for yeah, I'm not very good at this streaming malarkey. Rather than adding the block placement, let's have oh wait, I had somebody else following me, so maybe somebody else was watching, who knows. Successfully dig a block. Well, let's add a reporting function here. I'm not really sure how I want to do the reporting. I'm not sure whether I do it as just a flat text file or I do add it to the database. Adding it to the database would be easier to then link it back to the user, so I could display for a given user how far they've traveled and what other stats they've got. One of the issues I have is that I'd have to create a schema for that. I wonder if I create something generic, like add a single page thing. Right, let's give that a go. So this is just going to be to log. I mean, all of this is so security vulnerable, not in terms of somebody taking over the server, but in terms of somebody, well, I mean, not in terms of like access to the server, but in terms of editing the world beyond what they should be allowed to. And I mean, that I have some ideas for fixing, but right now I just want to make the game. I want to get the game working, and I'm not too fussed about maybe there's somebody goes on and they make something big, or they get something that in the future you might have to pay for, because I think it's all going to change. So right, so this is going to be the log info, and then what we want is actually we're going to get a log class. Don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. So let's go out into DB, and then we want to do something like the user but this is going to be a logging class. So we've got the base, this is going to be a log, and we're going to have log ID, we're going to have a user which is relating to the user to whom this is relating. So that'll be an ID, this would be column type integer. What's the foreign key semantics? Let's get that from composition. This isn't the right composition to get that, is it? Okay. Get show get show from composition. We want db composition. Damn it. If I check out, does that work? Okay, so then, who knows? Relationship, column, foreign key. Okay, so that's the semantics. I don't think semantics isn't the right word there. Syntax? Is it really syntax though? I don't know. So this could be a foreign key to user. And then we're gonna have the type of log. Can I call that what? Yeah. Let's just have this as a string. It's not going to be longer than 16. Let's make it 32. Is there any reason to make it 32? No, there's not really a reason to make it 32. What would be, if we've got 64-bit machines, then one word is going to be 8 bytes. So can we keep them below 8 characters long? I don't want to. Don't need to. And then we have the data, which is gonna be. Oh, I really want this to be numeric. Let's have it as. I want it as a number, but this is something from an old company that I really didn't like, but. That's horrible. I really hated this when it was this is a solution that a company that I used to work for used for this, and it's just, I don't like it. Let's look at SQL Alchemy, numeric data types, type hierarchy, integer, I don't want it to be an integer. We have float, numeric for non-integer numeric types, numeric, float, and decimal, and other variants. Is that what I'm looking for more so? Well, let's say float, and we'll make sure that, I mean, if I want, it's fine, float is fine, let's just go with float. And then this is going to be string column. Actually, you know what? Let's not have text. If we need text, that goes as a different kind of log. Is position is not something we want. Is viral is not relevant here. As dictionary, don't really need the ID. But fine. We could always join back to the user. Oh, that's our ID, not the user ID. User ID would probably be a good one. Even if we don't want to, like, even if we're not wanting. Oh, somebody said something. Hello, how are you doing? Hello, and thank you for watching me. Like, I didn't actually expect anyone to watch, so thank you. I hope you enjoy watching me coding out this game that I'm hoping is going to be an MMO that people have heard of. But, you know, these things take time. Name. Instead of name, we're going to have what. And that's going to be ours. So I love that I can call it what. It's like one of those words that feels like it should be a preserved word, like of and in and is, and it isn't. Don't have the foreign key. I'm not sure that foreign key comes from. Oh no, it does. Let's just add that. Yeah, well, it's so yeah. I mean, I'm writing the server in Python, but just because I wanted to sketch something up, the main bulk of the logic is going to be in the JavaScript. If you want to check out the prototype as it is at the moment, it's live on manicvoxels.com. But yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, Python is not really the right language to do the MMO. But then I'm thinking, what are the expensive bits? The most expensive bit of the MMO is getting everybody to know each other's positions, and given that this world is going to be editable, the world updates. So those are in a socket IO form at the moment, and I think it should be reasonably simple to move those over, because most of them are just broadcasts. So moving them over so that the WebSockets are run in something lower level, and the logic isn't hitting Python, maybe. The rest of it, I don't know. If a lot of people do actually end up playing, then I think, well, yeah, then it could be moved over. But for now, it works, and yeah. I had an ex-colleague who always used to say that computers are a lot cheaper than developers, and that was funny. And this is I want to make this highly parallelizable. So my plan is to have the world is in 16 by 16 by 16 chunks, and my plan is to have some group of those chunks porting to a particular server depending on how many people are in that volume, and then as more and more people end up in a volume, it shards, and that will spin up a new server. And so you will only ever need to communicate with two servers, one that is slightly offset from the other, and then each server can be parallelized in a way that means it's very scalable. And then the game mechanics would be so that there's only, I don't know, some n number of people in any given chunk, and there's like a kind of force, if you will, stopping them. Stopping more people going into a chunk once it's like full of people. I don't know, something like 16 players in a 16 by 16 by 16 volume, and then or more. I don't know. I don't really know what the server can handle. I mean, whatever an individual server can handle, you can have one server per chunk at the very maximum. I mean, the servers I've got it running on, I was playing with some friends the other weekend, and there was about 10 of us, and it's running on a £1 a month server. So I'm thinking maybe that will scale well. It makes sense that could really scale. Okay, so we have the log class, which is defining where we're going to log to. Then we've got this log endpoint, which we want to send information to. And what we want to do is sketch out something where we're reporting the log information. So this is the function where we store the position. We basically want that again, and that needs to be, I need a wrapper around that. And then let's go to the bottom, let's grab this, go back to our second store position, and we want that kind of information, and this is going to be store log. Okay, the endpoint's going to be different. Where have I defined the endpoint here? Rather than position, it's going to be log. And then let's try and extract the individual elements of this. So we don't need, I don't care to give log the direction. We're already logging the position, but the memory, that's something that could be useful. So we've got the memory, geometries, the number of textures that are loaded. These will be useful to correlate with the frame rate, as well as the number of triangles. One of my proudest moments on this development so far is I got greedy meshing working. So this is where the mesh. So you start with, if you can imagine, you've got these chunks. and they're 16 by 16. So you've got so 16 by 16 by 16 chunks. If you draw, like when you draw it, you've got a triangle. No, I've just got bad internet. I'm sorry. I was just saying the proudest moment in this game so far is getting greedy meshing working, because that was a bloody nightmare. When you start off, you've got like chunks, and you've got for each chunk, the whole chunk all the way through it is solid, and you've got a face for each of those. And obviously that's not efficient. You end up with a stupid number of triangles. I think it's something, well, I don't know what, 16 cube times 6 vertices per chunk, which is something stupid. A lot more than the number of triangles. We've got 13,000 triangles here, and that's like, and 36. So then you can do it so that if a face isn't being shown, you don't need to draw a triangle for it. Makes sense. But then for larger faces, so take like the sides of these trees, like that whole thing, that doesn't need to be lots of triangles. That can just be 2 triangles, and that's fine. There's this algorithm called greedy meshing that lets you do that, but the problem is it's not easy. And then once you've done it, you end up with this mess because all of the colors and the alignment goes off. But yeah, I've got a blog post coming up about that soon. I'm gonna show people an easier way than there's a 0fps which is a blogger. He does a report on it, and he does something with sets, but I never really understood it. And then I was like, well, maybe you just draw from top left as far right as you can go, drawing out a rectangle, and then as far down as you can go. And I think that's what the set theory that he's doing is demonstrating, but he's doing it in a more formalized mathematics. Right. Now, which of these... Now, getting the distance. We don't want to just get the distance here. I want to reset it. So... but then I want the... Well, this is a debug console for now, so that it doesn't matter if we reset the what the user sees in terms of distance. That was in control. So let's create. That's for that function. I hate that this module is not actually a proper class. It's the only one that's not a proper class. I need to move it over because this started before I was moving to classes. I think it was definitely way after JavaScript had classes, but before I realized that they were easy to use. I have a project from before ES6 and JavaScript classes came out, and that would have been nice to have JavaScript classes for. Okay, so let's have something here where we create the payload. Okay. Reset distance. So that way we can have a record of the distance that should be somewhat reliable so that we can just add the distance reported, and that'll be the total distance. We won't have any double counting. Now the ping report I got from Sprite Manager, but I only got the last one because at the time I wanted something to report to the screen, but here we want to get all of them and reset it. So let's do a get reset ping on that. That should be plural because it's returning an iterable. And then the millisecond. Do we have something that does a time-based reporting of that? Don't think we do. Oh no, performance time buffer push, and then we have that in the performance time buffer. That makes sense. So the millisecond list is reset performance time buffer. Okay, so then we got the millisecond list. Don't know that I need those two. We want to close that, so we've got the payload. Was there anything else on the list? I mean, these three I want to create buffers for, so we have the performance time buffer and we want function get reset performance time buffer. That's gonna reset the performance time buffer and give us content. And that should stop us just filling up with log data. We want to do something similar for these other three things. This is becoming a mess. So, what do we need from... Let's just create a function, debug reporting. And then we can move out a lot of that debugging information. We can start to think about having it, well, formatted a bit nicer, looking a bit nicer, abstracted a bit better. Actually, this is in Python, I don't think I need to do that. Let's leave that for now. Right, we've got distances, and we've got the render info. Like a debug class maybe, abstract this away so we're not using too many globals which we're using at the moment, just to get the thing working. Now, do I add these as triples or do I add three different lists? Triples would keep them in line with each other. We don't actually have access to the renderer here. Debug reporting. So we're going to have performance time buffer, performance renderer buffer, performance renderer buffer, performance No, let's go with that. It's not too bad a name. And then say geometries, geometry count, texture count, triangle count, and then performance, and a render info buffer. Render info buffer. Let's just add those. No, that's not right. I'm going to push the list to the list. And then all we need to do for... We've got reporting, we've got the other buffer, and we need a function to do the get reset of the render info buffer. Just basically that. But does this with the render info buffer. Render info buffer. Then we can go back to our log. We can log the render counts is get reset render info buffer. Nice. What does it not like about that? Unexpected colon. Ah, yes. The colons at the end, replace them with commas. Then the data we want to send is going to be our payload. And if there's an error, we're going to report it for now. Don't know where that's coming from. Ajax not defined, expected force space found 6. Fine. Okay, let's go back to where we have our got the log, and then what do we have there? Controls, don't need that, don't need that. Here it is. Log info. Okay, so distance equals log info, get the distance, and then we do need a session, and what we're going to do is going to say session add a log, user ID is going to be the user, and then the what distance, and then the value. What did I call it in the end? Data numeric. I don't like that name. I have the opportunity to change it now. It's going to be value. Value is a good name. Okay. Now, for the do I really? I mean, the ping list is going to add a value for every time that we've got a ping. And that is just going to be so much data. Is it going to be right to store that in the class that we're storing it? I don't need that much data to be indexed. I wonder if there's a way to like aggregate it to an average. But to be fair, I could do that later. Put off what you can do later. For ping value in log info. Oh, but I don't have sequence information on it. So I wonder if we can store them in some kind of buffer. We don't have timestamps on them. Although, what we're doing here, I think the position is stored every 60 seconds. It's maybe a bit long. The position is reported much more frequently than that. It's reported to each other, everybody on the socket, every 0.3 of a second, but it's only stored in the server every minute, so you might fall back a bit from where you were. Which is something I'll need to sort out, but so if we know roughly how long the store log is, then those aggregations will make sense. So rather, if we do the get reset of these, we can have these functions do something more clever. So rather than the get reset of these just simply reporting what's there, the performance time buffer can instead report a min value. No, min's not. It's math.min of performance time buffer, and then the max performance time buffer. But I tell you what would be better than that is just doing a report generator. Which takes in some list and will return the min, the max, the mean. Maybe I should do median as well, because there's no reason to suggest this would be normally distributed data. Is there an inbuilt JavaScript median function? Oh, damn. It's got to be done in the JavaScript. That works. Okay, median. Mean is the mean, the median is the median. so we need that. Do that for the max. Is math.mean a function? But I think you can unpack, right? Okay, you can unpack. Is there also no mean? Oh, it's the meaning of JavaScript rather than mean value. Damn. It's a shame it's not inbuilt. I should create a stats object, but I'm not going to. This can be converted to the max. Mean value is going to be the mean of the list, and the median value, the median of the list. Generator. And then when we get there a set, what we want to do is return the port generator of the buffer. Reset render. But with render we've got 3 values. Also, does that... do these take... oh, damn it. Do they take... so the array.reduce, so these two take arrays rather than a list of arguments. This is missing a semicolon as well. I wonder if I can do a zip for the get render and do a map. Oh wait, we've got a list of triples and we want to take the values of each. So in Python that would be zip of star. Zip in JavaScript. Let's just go for so this is where I'm just making a mess of it because of the data structure that I've put it in. If I put it in 3 lists rather than a list of triples, we wouldn't have to do the information that we wouldn't have to do this now. let's flip it around. The render info buffer is instead an object containing a geometry count, a triangle count, a texture count, and a triangle count. Yeah. Okay. And then each of these just becomes and then we don't need to do that one. Now we have 3. Oh no, I need to insert here. Render info buffer. Render info buffer dot. Render. Info buffer dot. Hey, there we go. And then what we can do is we can say I need a render info buffer factory. Didn't think I would need that. Okay, then when we initiate the render info buffer, we do so using the factory. And then when we reset it, we also use the factory. And then we've got this buffer. And the buffer, what we want to do is we want to say report. I think you can do some kind of map here, but I'm not going to. Why did that E end up bigger? Can you map on an object? Key, value, do what you want. But what do you end up with at the end? It's a really Stack Overflow, what do they say? Object.keys for each function key index. Ah, that's perfect, that's what I want. For each function key index. Key is . reduces what we have substantially. And now when we do the logging, we have a ping list, a millisecond list, and the render counts. We don't have our sprite manager because we didn't. And now this is where having our stats functions moved out would help. So let's go to we've got our mean, our median, and the report generator. Let's create a log report generation. And what are we going to move across? Well, the mean, the median, the report generator, and the other buffers I think we'll leave. And then we need to import that. But I think we only need to import the report generator. I think the mean and median are only used in the report generator. Missing a from. Okay. Now we can copy that and do the same for the player. Get reset pings. Our pings equals this. Reset the pings, and then do a report generator of the pings. I hate that so I haven't set up a proper testing framework for the JavaScript, and it really bugs me. But we now have reset the pings. This is not exported, it should be. Right. Well, that looks like the information should be being reported. So let's try it out. It's definitely got some errors. MS is not defined. It's the wrong main. So we did have MS and now we don't have MS. Oh, the MS was in the animation. We have MS here and we have delta. And debug reporting gets the renderer. We should also get MS. That'll solve that problem. In this very crude form of test-driven development that really doesn't work very well. Certainly not the test-driven development we want, not the test-driven development we should have. So, now that it doesn't break on start, let's set up the object that does the interval. So here we have send position. We don't have store position. Why do we... Store position allegedly also takes communication every 60 seconds. And yet it doesn't break. Well, let's duplicate that. And we'll say store log. We'll leave everything else the same. But we're going to have this after just 1 second. That's going to tell us if there's any errors with that. There are. But I have a feeling that those are coming from the fact that we're not going to get a response from the server. So I'm going to comment out this alert. Oh no, that's the wrong one, that's the position one. I'm going to comment out this alert, because we are expecting errors back. Here we go. So 404 not found, that's what we expect. But look at that. We have the min MS, the max MS, the mean, the median. Oh, that looks lovely. Right. Well, it's getting a bit dark on the stream, isn't it? I'll be right back. How do I pause the stream for a second? Is there like a... I'd like to do something clever with the, like, pausing the stream, but... What does that button do? Oh, no, we do that. No, I don't know. So I should have brief interludes like that. I should have some like ad break or something like that. That'd be cool. I don't know. Right, back. So we didn't get an error, and so what we want to do is grab the server code we were working on, and we now are in a better place. So we have, for the ping value, we have let's get that up on the other screen, otherwise I'm going to forget what's there. Is there a way of doing this for each? The min ping equals log info ping list min. And the same for max, mean, and median. then this is actually the same across all, so I really should have just grabbed this one. 13. Yeah, so the list of stats is a min, a max, a mean, median, and the list of stat lists. There's got to be a better name for that. Doesn't work because the render counts. Unless we unpack the render counts here, which is going to be more faff. But that's going to be faff to do it on the left hand side. Do we do it on the right hand side? Do we do it on the left hand side? Well, for now let's just do stats list equals the ping list and the ms list. And then for a stat and a list name in the product of stats and stats list session add log entry, the user ID being our user.id, the what. Now the what's a concatenation of the two, and since what is a string, I'm just gonna have stat plus list name. Actually, probably the other way around. Let's do list name. Let's do list name followed by stat. Let's do some string formatting. Okay, so that's the what, and then the value is going to be log info, list name, I kind of like that. It's nice and concise. It means that there's one place to add the information. Well, okay, kind of one place to add the information when I do want to add more. If, that is, I have these render counts put out into something else. So the render count's there, and the render count's made of three things. They are the... I'd say I would develop so much quicker if I could remember things like this. Okay, triangle, texture, and geometry. Okay. Okay, so let's create a macro where we take that name and we say render counts dot that name, and that's what we want to put there. Okay, put them indented properly, and then render counts is not defined. Render counts, render. It's not defined. Can you tell I don't know the difference between let and var? And then here we could just add geometry. Geometry count, texture count, and triangle count. Oh, and then use session. I should use con because I'm using session for something else. I also need to commit those things. And we don't have position to then return, so maybe we just return that. And then from the server side, I want to import the log class, and then this log needs to be capitalized. And then I think the easiest way to do the database migration is to delete the database and come back to it. Okay, let's do that. Okay, remove users, and then set up, and then restart the server. See what kind of issues we get. We're logged in, but the server doesn't have our connection. I don't know if that's like a big issue or having like the resetting of something or other. Something's not loading. The WebSocket doesn't seem to be loading. User ID, and this is running every second, so that's probably why it's running other things slow. Int has no attribute ID. Alright, so user is already an int. Okay. So user here is already an int rather than username. Interesting. I doubt that will solve it, but maybe it will. Product is not defined. Yes. Where does product come from? Cartesian product comes from isotools. Int has no attribute ID. Well, we didn't get that again, so now what is going wrong? Oh, maybe we did get that wrong, which is in a different place. Yes, we did. Should set up typing. This is such like a move fast and go back to proper development practice afterwards. Interesting, the table doesn't exist. The table doesn't exist because I do need to, the setup is not automatic. The setup needs it importing. Create all engine db user base from db user import base. set the init, base, user, composition from log, port, log, and then do the same. And then reset, reset, something, none has, oh, but that's not the issue here, right? The none being, I thought that was an issue if we're not logged in. Well, the log we're getting a true on the way back. Ah, God, it really annoys me. Is that the issue? Yeah, that's the issue. So, oh gosh, that's really messed with the render time. I wonder if that is that the server is now having to log so much information, or if calculating all of those means is what's causing the issue. Could be either, because that's running a lot slower. I mean, calculating the means every second is going to be hard, but calculating them less frequently, which was always the end goal, rather than having them every second. It was supposed to be every 60 seconds, although if the 1 second one is causing lag, then maybe 60 seconds is too long, and instead we should have it every 10 seconds. One way to find out. We hadn't been on the page. Oh no, we had been on the page a minute, so. Okay. Interesting. The frame rate's really suffering. How frequently are we doing the logging here? Oh, interesting. It's not. Oh, I must have done one by now. Like, they must have hit that. Triangle count. Distance 13. My distance hit 0 because it's gone within a. Okay. So this is logging. I don't know if that's creating much of a performance dip. But it's important information. The average ping time, the rest of that. I think it's worth pushing so that I can get a better understanding of the. I mean, this still doesn't give me the time people are on for. Kinda does. Where would be best to add a time element? If I just add another time in the log, then that tells me when the person's online. Yeah. How do you get date time to time since epoch? Timestamp. Yeah, daytime now, timestamp. So also want to add the distance, add log, user ID, what, timestamp, value, date time. And then move from date time. See if that doesn't cause a break, which I imagine it will. I'm surprised how quick the terrain generation is now, given that it does cycle through every of the cubes. So every of the cell within the 16 cube cells, including the air ones, and runs a calculation to see not only is it ground, but should have a tree, things like that. You can end up falling inside. God, I feel quite deep there. I wonder if this is the ping time. Is it that this is... I don't know. I don't think that'll affect performance too much. But then if we go to SQL Lite and select the mean, the max of the max of value where I'll go back to the log class to understand what's going on. Where what equals ping list max. No such column value. Got the from clause. Ah, no log table. So it didn't get generated after all. What is the SQLite show tables? Dot schema. No. Dot schema. Dot tables. Interesting, because it still didn't get generated. Oh, I tell you what's wrong. I'm in the wrong database. We are... Remove the user. Go back to users. And then run this. The longest ping was over a second. Interesting. So... I don't think we can do... probably do count, right? Count value, ping list, mean, 125, and then just 125. Sum. Can I divide it by 125, or do divide by count of value? Yeah, I can. Okay, so the average ping time is 42 milliseconds. Well, that's useful information. Okay, so I do this for just try and get rid of the fact that I changed composition. Have a look at my changes. Yeah, I think these look good. Except I want to run black on DB. I sort on. Oh, do I not have it? Okay. And then I'm not going to run MyPy on it yet. Okay, so stats reporting working. You know what I do first? I really need database migration. I think it's the one that I've been thinking about is Alembic. But it's that kind of DevOps I just haven't got around to yet. Right. Okay. Is anybody using this? It's really just not getting used. Okay, well, get checkout tracking. Add it. Now if I tell Kiara user I don't think that's the reason it didn't start. Okay, so here's what I want to do to test the deployment then, is I'm going to remove the users DB. And I'm going to check out master. I'm going to this running locally, I'm going to do setup from master, then I'm going to go and check out tracking, then I'm going to run this from tracking. And see if I can see if we have errors. Apart from seem okay. These are just errors from somebody looking to log in, probably me. If I work out where the supervisor config is, okay, and then him into that. Var log supervisor. Could probably just go from there. Var log supervisor standard error. No module named block management. No standard out supervisor log. Manic to stop, manic terminated, signal quit, manic running. So it's at 7:13, spawned, exited, status 1 not expected. So I wonder. Oh no. That's not where the log files are. I'm looking in the wrong place. The log files are actually where we can see there's no module named db.log. And is that because I didn't commit it? Yes, it is. That is ridiculous. Can't believe I did that. I did it on camera as well. It's really embarrassing. Right, well I pushed those now. Added the two files that I'd forgotten to add. So we should here now be able to check out tracking, pull, and then try to restart. Okay, so it's started. Have we messed everything up? We have not. In fact, this one, because it's not logging to... It's not logging locally, is running absolutely fine. I don't seem to be getting... So the ping is interesting. So this is a remote ping. I think this is to the States. It seems a bit quick to be to the States, to be honest with you. Well, there it is. Tracking. The thing is, I don't think it's going to be tracking because the database doesn't have the right table. Oh, I don't want to mess up everybody's... We only have user. Ooh. I think the server's being overloaded now. Logging taking its toll. Oh wait, 10 seconds. We'll wait for distance to go to 0. Okay. But then I'm not looking. I haven't got that right, have I? Right, alright, let's copy users.db to users backup.db. And then run. Have we got the, yeah, so source fem bin activate, then Python db setup. I need to do the export Python path. Okay, and then let's go back to users and do .tables, and we have the log. And we have things being added to it. Which is cool. I think it's just running HTOP on this that makes the CPU jump through the roof, rather than, like, I don't know. Ooh, that did jump up to 23% utilization. That might be a bit of a heavy lift for this server. Maybe I should do the log reporting on another server. Oh no, I'm in a hole. I don't know, 10 seconds. Did the ping go up? Did the ping go down? I don't know. I don't even know. would be nice to know how many players are online at once. I have a way to exit the database. What else have we got on here? We've still got composition to go. It'd be nice to get the cities and rivers working again. My fiance was laughing at me because I have a find the river post-it. She's like, it's your game. What do you mean you can't find the river? I was like, well, I made the river infinitely wide and I still couldn't find it. Oh, what was the other one? Yeah, that's because I wanted to get the composition as a graph. The compositions turn out to be like a super hard problem. This one doesn't even have the dragging working yet. Do I have a post-it to tell me do I have a post-it to tell me to get the user accounts so that you can adjust the chunk horizons? I don't think I do. I'm gonna make one. I can't believe that database migration worked. It was rogue. Probably keep closer tabs on that server if I'm going to be storing that much information. Shouldn't really be storing logs in TB, but if it's only, I don't know, it's not going to be long before I find a better way to start doing something better with them. Don't share this with anybody. No. Okay, VPS, manning voxels. Memory has been running consistently at 93%. The bandwidth, I only have a terabyte of bandwidth. I didn't realize I had a restriction on her. And disk use, 5 gigabytes. Different vehicle. Usage hasn't been too bad. I mean, the memory is because I'm running a Neo4j instance there, but I did actually get this working on my Quest 2 headset. That was awesome. I mean, I only got one chunk, and you were stationary, apart from what you could walk around. Like, you couldn't move further than your Quest 2 boundary. But it was cool that, like, this web game with a few alterations can be made into that. Is it too dark? That is way too dark. There we go. I guess we're going to have to go back to composition. Unless I have another go at getting the rivers working. I think what I'm going to do is composition, then the rivers, and then people. To be fair, we could continue on the tracking front and create like a page to sort of broadcast users in the last X amount of time. Well, the problem is it's just me. No users, just me. I think we can do composition. Right, there's enough people watching. We're going to do composition. Right, so that means that... Where were we with composition? I think we got to the point where I had wanted to put composition into the database, realised that a relational database really isn't the right way to do that, and then gone for a Neo4j, but realising that having it on Neo4j meant going through the complexities of the Python Neo stuff again. I'm not sure I wanted to do that. But I did get... maybe what I should do is just get the terrain generation to be quicker. God, that was slow. That's certainly one thing to work on. That could always be that the server's not lined up. If we work on generation, I think I should work on getting the rivers back. Finding where the river is, or why it's not there. Yeah, let's go for generation. I think that would be an more interesting thing to watch anyway. Check out... Find the river. Okay, so it's got nothing to do with the server. Not really got anything to do with this main file. So, what do we need? This should be sorted out. The generation is under generation rules, and what are we current at? But then also it's under parent chunk. It's under parent chunk rather than chunk because the parent chunk is what gets loaded by the threads. Yes, we have threaded terrain generation in JavaScript using web workers if they're supported in the browser that's loading the page. Okay, that's just generating the mesh, which we don't actually do in the threads. So set up height map, and then we run along the height map. So the other thing is not necessarily which chunk, not necessarily speeding the generation of a chunk up, but speed by being more efficient in what chunks we generate. And that would come down to in the world map, and rather than having the chunks themselves generate themselves as web workers, have a series of web workers where work is pushed to it in some kind of queue. That seems more difficult than it should be. I do want to do that though, because I think by prioritizing the chunks, I'm thinking now about a data structure. So we want a priority queue for the chunks to be loaded based on, I don't know, n web workers. Because at the moment, this is what we have at the moment. So if we look at sources and we go the call stack, is it call stack or threads? Right. So we've got threads. Now if I refresh the page, you'll see that that's more than I think most people have in terms of threads. Like, that's a lot of asynchronous chunks that are just being queued up. So I think having a parameterizable value for this, why are they still there when I've loaded a different page? That took a long time to collapse them. So they seem quite expensive to spin up. Makes sense. I think they're actually run as separate processes, not just separate threads. And that means you can use all of the processes and, with hyperthreading or whatever. But if somebody has a dual core computer and it's not going to be of any use to them to increase the number of threads, right? So we should have a setting where you could set that up. You could set how many threads are there going to be. And then we just always have that many threads for you. And why are there errors? Oh, because we're running on a different version of server. Okay. That should fix that. Please fix that. Okay, it does fix that. So as I was saying, like this computer, I don't know how many threads have we got? 12. Okay, so it's a 6-core machine with hyperthreading 12 threads. There shouldn't be more than 12 running. Oh really, the log's still not there. I thought I merged that into master. What branch are we on? Oh. This is because we need to run setup on here, and then that should fix the 500 error, which should stop us getting these, because they are 500 errors, not 404s, and if it was the wrong branch, it would have been a 404 error, not a 500 error. Simple. But it's going to require re-architecting to work out how to have it with a low number of workers. I probably want to create some kind of object that will manage these for me, and I don't think the right place to put that code is in the world map. I think we should have the world map has an argument, or has a composition, not inheritance or anything malarkey like that. Of the what are we calling this? Chunk thread manager. Chunk thread manager. Okay. Then we're going to export a class. Chunk thread manager. And maybe this should be a singleton. Maybe I should export the class which, I don't know, gets access to a module wide variable which is instantiated on the first import and acts like the singleton pattern, just without creating more classes for no reason. And then compose. I can never remember what these are. Constructor. Okay, and I guess we want to take the number of threads. Number in here. And yeah, what we want to do, we want to have list of workers is an array. For I is 0, I++. No, not yet. Jumping the gun. I less than the number. Now the I++. Now, what we're doing on the I++. What are we doing in the loop? Let's add a new worker. Let's do the let. Let's let it be. Let W equal new worker. But then we're going to add W to the works. That's what I've called it, not workers, the works. This works. This works. I'm going to push W. Okay. What else do we have here? We're going to have this queue. Okay, and then I'm going to hope somebody tells me how to implement a priority queue in Python, in JavaScript. I don't know. Can we just have the queue as a list for now? So we've got the thread manager. Let's have an object that represents a job. Let's have a job to give to the manager. And the constructor is going to take a chunk to call back to, and then we want the job to do job. No, do's. Is there a synonym for carry out? Synonym to carry out. To conduct. Let's conduct this job. Conduct. We want to do... and we're going to conduct it on a worker. And so how do we normally do this? We normally post a message like that, and then on the message we do that. I mean, what I'm thinking is of how we get the structure, the priority. What defines the priority? Something to do with the Euclidean distance between the user and the chunk, obviously. But we want to weight it, right? So we want to weight it based on having the ground go further. I don't want to create loads of air blocks. Don't want to create loads of solid chunks that aren't going to be seen unless there's an error. You know what, I'm starting to flag, so I'm going to call that a night. Thank you ever so much for the people actually watching me. I'm absolutely blown away. Thank you ever so much. And go to manicvoxels.com if you want to see the progress so far. I've uploaded most of what I've done tonight to the main website, as you've seen. So yeah, thank you and good night.